our first ever WEN Presents. I'm sorry about the technical difficulty at the beginning, but hopefully it gets better from that. We're really happy to have you all here, even if we can't see your lovely faces. But I know that we've got a pretty wide range of people in the audience today, from industry grads, people working for Olaf, high school students, uni students, which is really amazing and pretty much exactly what we're trying to achieve. So I'm sure a lot of you are probably wondering what WEN Presents is, since it's completely new. And really it's just a way to kind of create a community, inspire some conversations and engage in a more diverse audience. I think WEN this year really wants to open up the conversation to everyone, especially those who are interested in like our message about diversity and inclusivity in engineering especially. And I think with this, we just kind of want to provide an opportunity for everyone, regardless of like male, female, etc., and at all stages in life, to kind of come along, build some connections, ask some questions, and hopefully in the future when we have these events in person, it can be a bit more social and a bit more hands-on.
Yeah, for sure. EJ really said it all. Like it's all about an opportunity to build connections between women and allies in the engineering field, like whether you're studying, working, or just interested in engineering in general. Like we kind of touched on it before, but when there's a common misconception that WEN is just for women, and WEN doesn't just need the support of women, it's the support of all of us to really get the message out there that it is a really diverse world, and everyone coming together is how we actually create these amazing solutions to problems. So the topics for WEN Presents kind of revolve around that in a way. It's all about how engineers are building a better world together, with a focus on how diversity within engineering enables us to achieve awesome things. We're hoping to engage people on issues facing the world that we can all solve together, and that we can solve in our communities as well as in the wider world. And we'll have many different speakers each time on many different topics. And each time we'll have a presenter, two presenters, one WEN leader and one WEN ally.
Yeah, so we'll be the MCs of WEN Presents going forward, and we'll be pretty much asking questions that we've prepared, and also asking your questions that you want to hear about and interested in. So yeah, feel free to message in the Q&A throughout this whole time. And I'm guessing this will be a good time now to introduce ourselves. My name is Emily Jade, but for convenience sakes, everyone just calls me EJ. And I'm currently a third-year biomedical engineering student. I'm just trying my best, honestly. And yeah, this year I am a WEN leader, and I'm mostly involved with outreach. So if you're a high school student watching, you may have heard / seen from me before, and will have the great fortune to for many times in the future. Yeah, I guess to help out with my lack of interviewing prowess, we have probably one of the most personal people I know, Alex.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Alex. I'm a fourth-year engineering student at the University of Auckland, and I study mechatronics. As well as that, I'm very into the clubs area of engineering because there's such a diverse range of clubs in engineering specifically. And this year I'm producing an annual theatre show called the Engineering Review. So if you're at Auckland Uni, sign up. We have our sign-ups closing tomorrow. It's a lot of fun always. Don't need any experience. And yeah, as well as this, I have a really big interest in thoughtful and meaningful applications of engineering. That's kind of why this event speaks volumes to me. I'm just really excited to be part of it, and also be representing WEN Allies, because it's a really cool initiative and you should all get involved. Yeah, so our first topic, like I said before, is engineering and enter pandemic. Engineers are natural problem solvers. It's probably one of the most competitive skills that we have to offer, you know, as students and as professionals. And many new problems have arisen throughout COVID that no one's actually seen before. And it's when you need this changeable problem solving skill to really attack these problems and really make meaningful solutions to them. And solving these problems isn't just a problem for big companies or people with lots of money. It's about all of us to do it. We need to come together and do it together. And today we have 3 speakers who have done exactly that.
Yeah, so as Alex mentioned, we've been really extremely lucky to get a couple of amazing speakers tonight, starting with Olaf, who has kind of taken why not do the essential work rather than nothing type of approach to lockdown, as well as Sueyeon, who is a recent graduate and is already doing some amazing work at her role at Xero. And last but not least, we have Michelle, who not only did she like recently sit down with the Prime Minister to talk about COVID-19, but she's also doing a multitude of other things to adapt to these changing times. But before we get into all of that good stuff, I think this would be a good time to just remind you that we do have a survey at the end after the Q&A that we would really appreciate everyone filling out. And if you do, you automatically go into the draw to win a $50 voucher, and it would only take like 2 or 3 minutes. As well as that, we'll be announcing the competition as well, and we'll tell you more about the details later. But there's a $300 prize for that as well, so you definitely don't want to miss out.
Yeah, and as well as that, throughout, if you want to hear, if you have any questions, I guess, from your point of views, ask them in the question box below. If you haven't used Zoom Webinar, there's like a Q&A feature if you scroll down below. But if you ask those throughout, we can ask those at the end for the panel as well.
Yeah, so our first speaker tonight, we have Olaf. For many of the URA students watching, I'm sure a couple of the mechanical ones would recognize you, but for those who don't, could you tell us a bit about who you are and what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I'm Olaf, and I head up the Creative Design and Additive Manufacturing Lab at the University of Auckland, which is, it's basically like a toy shop full of really cool advanced manufacturing toys, including 3D printers and stuff like that, that allow us to develop products really, really fast. And it's used by, well, just about everybody at the university, from art students, business students, and of course, engineering students in a big way.
Oh, wow. Okay. So how did you actually get into that? Because I hear you actually started off in a different industry altogether.
Well, yeah, strange. Well, when I studied engineering, I studied electronics, but I did that because my dad said, you're going to be an engineer. So off I went to university and absolutely hated it. So then as sort of rebellion, I went and worked in theater. So almost the opposite of engineering. So both on stage and a lot of backstage. So I did a lot of lighting in theater.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and this is, to me, what I love about engineering is that you can do anything you want. But then if you want to go back to engineering, you've got the qualifications to do it. So many years later, I came to New Zealand and this is probably about 23 years ago, I wanted to work in theater, but there was no work available. But as it happens, we've got 2 companies in New Zealand that manufacture lighting equipment. So I started working for Theatre Light down in Onehunga, who manufacture a lighting control desk that most high school kids who work in theatre will have played with some of the stuff I've worked on. And that got me back full circle into engineering. And then I got headhunted by Silicon, another company that does lighting equipment. So this is what got me back to engineering. And this is, if you do an engineering qualification, that's what's cool. If you want to work as a hairdresser or work in theater, something that drives your passion, you can absolutely do it, but it gives you the options to pretty much go back and do, well, anything you want.
Yeah, so we've heard that you're doing some really amazing things to help with the battle of the pandemic, but before we jump right into that, can you just talk a bit more about some of the 3D projects, 3D printing projects you do outside of work? Because I've heard it's really, really cool.
Yeah, look, 3D printings are a great way to basically realize ideas. So one of the things I do as a hobby, and I've got one here, I make sort of 3D printed guitars as a hobby. This is sort of a steampunk guitar. I'll see if I can hold it up to the camera and you can see all the gears turn. So that's printed on a 3D printer all in one piece. And it's just an example of the kind of fun stuff I do. But we do really all sorts. We do a lot of work with local artists. So that's an example. It's printed in metal, so in aluminium. It's an inflatable balloon animal, but he wanted them to be, the contrast of really light and really heavy. So printed in metal as an example. We do a lot of work with, say, prosthetics. So that's an example for a 2.5-year-old girl, a little prosthetic arm for a 2.5-year-old girl, where we scan the residual limb and printed her out a socket that fits her perfectly. And growing really quickly, it means every 2 months, 3 months, we can print a new one overnight, ready to go. So it's much quicker than the traditional way of doing it. So work with engineers, medical people, all sorts, helping them to realize ideas, I guess.
I'm definitely a bit more productive than me in my free time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, obviously, this must have been somewhat affected by the pandemic and obviously COVID-19 that's all been happening. Not only have you been restricted from being on campus, But I guess everyone's way of life has changed as well. What have you been doing throughout this time that's a bit different to that?
Yeah, I mean, at first it struck us a bit by surprise, but luckily all the design work we can do just as easily from home as at work. What was missing was being able to take those ideas, because when you design on a computer, it's just an idea. Until you test it for real, you don't know if it's going to work. But then we slowly started to see a need for COVID, particularly PPE, personal protective equipment. So we started working on that, and around the world now there's been a movement of basically nerds and geeks like myself, 3D printers, particularly doing face shields, where one of the problems with PPE is there's plenty of PPE. The challenge is getting it to the people who need it. So there's been a group around the world that on their home 3D printers have been printing face shields and then delivering them locally to the hospital or the hospice or the people who need them. So we started in that area, but then we started to see a problem of, scaling it up to make more of them. So on the base we got at the university, so because of that, we got permission to re-enter the lab and start printing stuff for COVID. And to give you an example, so this is an example of a face shield we did. And the difference between this one and the ones that have been printed around the world is we've got a baby industrial machine that we can print 128 units in about 6 hours, whereas on desktop printers, each shield takes 1, 2, or 3 hours to print, depending on the design. So as we're scaling it up, then from there we went into, I guess, ventilation. So trying to make emergency ventilators, not for New Zealand, because New Zealand, I think, has got enough to go around, but for particularly developing countries that haven't got any. And again, normally I would have a video to show, but in this case, it took us in 2 weeks, we managed to get through 3 design iterations, testing each one. So in 2 weeks, we had a little mechatronic system that now works as an emergency ventilator. Not a high-end replacement for the, the $50,000 or $100,000 machines they have in hospital, but when you've got nothing, it could save a life. So, that's the kind of stuff we've been doing over COVID to try to sort of help speed things along.
Oh, 3 weeks that's so fast. Now I understand why you expect so much from our project.
Well, it's technology. I mean, that's the beauty of technology. The technology is developed where the design tools, the typing tools, the manufacturing tools are now sort of plug and play where you can very quickly test an idea.
Wow. That's so cool as well, how it's so much faster than other people in industry that are trying to do it as well. It's quite awesome to see. And if any of you want to see more, there's so many videos on LinkedIn that I think I got taken one the other day, and it's really quite awesome. You don't know until you actually see it. So go check it out, definitely.
Yeah, so not gonna lie, when we went into lockdown, I took a bit of a holiday, and productivity was kind of at an all-time low, but obviously you've managed to overcome this somehow, doing such amazing work. Did you experience a similar slump, or how did you kind of overcome this?
No, for me, it was actually almost the opposite, but maybe I'm an exception. I mean, I seem to spend a lot of my time in meetings and that, where suddenly in lockdown, I had all this time. I actually got a lot more done than I would normally. But I fully understand how a lot of people would not know what to do. And again, because we can do all the design on the computer, I actually got a lot more done than I normally would have, I think.
Wow. And I guess building on that, what does that kind of give you compared to working? It must have been more enjoyable, but did you have kind of a shift in your interest from that or anything?
Well, I mean, I'd never designed any PPE before this. So this was sort of a whole, I mean, I guess the cool thing for the area I'm in, which is generally product development, is you never get bored, because every week, every month, you're designing a new product. But of course, this COVID thing threw me in a whole different direction in an area I'd never, ventilation as an example, I know nothing about ventilation systems. So in a mad panic, I had to learn a lot of new stuff, talk to anesthetists and people at the DHBs to find out what was important in a ventilator. And to me, that's one of the keys to engineering, is being able to learn quickly to solve problems that you've never, every engineering problem is a new problem. So you've got to figure out a new way to solve it.
Wow.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that is so cool. Oh my God. Did you have specific, I guess, inspiration for this, or did it just
Well, it sort of started because I was bored at home with not enough to do. I mean, I did design one new guitar, and then I said, okay, what do I do now? And started looking around, and that's when we started seeing the, the shortage of of personal protective equipment as an easily addressable one. And then from there, it went into the slightly more sophisticated equipment like ventilators.
Oh, that's so cool. Awesome. And I guess, like, kind of building on that, what do you think is next for you? And how can people keep up with what you're doing?
Well, I mean, you know, we're continuously working on new projects, but this ventilation one, so we're now talking to New Zealand, so you know, people at Nelson, DHB, and various others as a, for example, when ambulances, so our ventilator works on what's called the ambu bag, which is, you see them on, if you watch a Grey's Anatomy or any medical drama, the rubber bags that people squeeze with their hand. So our ventilator is basically a mechatronic hand replacement. It replaces a human hand, and you can control the speed, the pressure, all that sort of stuff. So where the interest is now is, you know, for example, when they're moving a patient from one part of a hospital to another part of the hospital, rather than having a doctor or a nurse having to waste their very valuable hand massaging the bag, or in an ambulance, they actually have the machine doing it for them.
Oh, wow.
So it's just, again, it's part of sort of emergency help. So we're going to keep working on that.
Yeah, that's really cool to know that, like, the work that you're doing, obviously for the pandemic, you can also like apply to other situations after this is going to be all over. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, thank you so much for taking your time to have this little chat. The next speaker we'll have is Sueyeon.
Hello.
Yeah, so Sueyeon is a recent graduate, working as a developer at Xero. She's already making waves in the company and already has some awesome LinkedIn reviews, which is super cool. But yeah, so you've actually recently graduated from University of Auckland, right? And were you studying software engineering?
Yes, I was. So
Right.
I graduated 2 years ago, and I did my graduate position at Xero, and I've recently ungraduated, as we call it, in Xero, and now I am a software developer at Xero.
Oh,
Yep.
wow. Oh, that's so cool. How have you found working life so far, I guess?
I love working life. I think it's a lot different from uni, where you just like study, have assignments, etc., etc. It's much more challenging and much more engaging, and I think I really like the aspect of it. And I feel like with uni, it's very like, you know, you don't get me wrong, uni's great, but it's also, you know, assignment after assignment after assignment, and then that's about it. But with working life, it's like a lot different. It's like you know, are constantly getting challenged, and you're constantly building up your skills, and it's just been great, honestly.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
So I feel like, especially now that everyone kind of just tells you that doing like small things to keep healthy while you're at home is really important, especially since we're all kind of like working and studying from home. It's in times like these where like these really seemingly small additions can make a big change, and I know that that's kind of something that's what you've been doing at Xero. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so Xero's been really cool because basically in Xero we've been having something called the Ship It Challenge, and basically it's like an initiative for people to kind of like pause what they're doing and kind of work on something that people can you know, that we can help our clients through during COVID.
Right.
So it's not only just my team doing it, but it's like a lot of other teams as well. But our team specifically, we decided to add in a button, which you're like, oh my God, it's like nothing. How can a button help? But we actually found it's really important because with our button, so currently in Xero, I'm working on a team called projects. And that's basically, we have our clients and our customers, and they use it to track projects or track job management. So for example, if I was like a web designer, then I would track my projects, and I'd be like, okay, I have this client who wants me to make their website, this client who wants me to, you know, make another website.
Yeah.
And then in that project, I can track my time. And then when I track my time, then I can also invoice it out, and it just makes everything really easy like that.
Right.
So at this time, at this time, in this COVID situation, it's really important for our clients to kind of quickly see the costs and the profitability that they're getting from each of their projects, so they can kind of see how they're doing.
Right.
And currently it's actually really hard in Xero because you kind of have like this projects tab, but then to actually get this report, you kind of need to switch over to this other tab, which is like this accounting tab, go under reports, and then go find projects report, and then run the project. So we found that actually a lot of our customers don't use that profitability report at all because it's just way too hard to find. So we actually added a button like in our banner just to go straight to the project report. And we found that was really important because, you know, we kind of need to have a summary of how we're all doing. And then hopefully, since that people know that reports are there, they'll be able to see how much their profits and their costs are going to cost them in this hard time. So that's what we're working on. I'm pretty sure it's actually live now, which is really cool. But yeah, we're hoping that, you know, like a small change like this will kind of ease the stress of our clients and our customers, you know, while they're in this hard time. Obviously, it's quite a big thing to try and balance your finances while there's hardships in businesses. So yeah.
And like making it more visible as well was super cool. Like, you know, when you can actually see it, it reminds you to check it as well, I guess, which is
definitely. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's so cool. What's next for you, I guess? Like what are you thinking next? Any new projects you're working on or any other projects Xero has been doing?
So currently we're actually doing a lot more projects that are kind of related to COVID as well, which is really good. So I don't know if I can reveal them, so I probably won't.
I don't want you to break any confidentiality agreements.
Yeah, so I probably won't. But we have some really cool upcoming exciting stuff that will hopefully help people, you know, track their profits and stuff as well, cool. And make it easier for times like that. And I'm really excited to work on it because it's like new features and stuff like that. So yeah, no.
Oh my God, awesome. Well, we're expecting big things, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we can hear more about it in the Q&A as well. Thank you, Sueyeon.
Yeah, thanks.
So last but not least, we have Michelle, who I've been told is a LinkedIn connection with Kevin as well. And obviously, you're quite a big name in the engineering world. And personally, you're a bit of a role model, so I'm a bit starstruck. But for those who don't recognize you, do you mind telling us a bit about who you are and what do you do?
Sure. So my name is Michelle Dickinson. I have a PhD in engineering. I'm a materials engineer by training. I used to teach Chem Mat at the University of Auckland, so I was a lecturer, and I left 3.5 years ago to set up my own business all around helping educate younger people to become engineers from a much younger age. So now I run Nanogirl Labs, and we help kids to build stuff and realize their unique engineering skills when they're really young.
That's actually so cool. And like EJ said, you're quite well known, a very respected engineering celebrity, I guess. And you even have a superhero name, I hear. Can you tell us a bit about how that came about?
Yeah, so when I was at UOA, I used to do outreach. Like you, EJ, I used to go out to schools and I would work mostly, I would do some secondary schools, but also primary schools. The research shows that children make up their mind about science by the age of 12. So it was really important to me that I was going to primary schools to build a strong foundation, as well as then going to high schools when students were making choices. And I was in Howick and I was talking to some kids about nanotech and what I did as my job and what tiny things were and how it can help you build superpowers. And they were like, these were probably year 5. So they were like 9 years old. And they're like, oh man, if you're a superhero, you need a superhero name. And I'm like, you're right, I do. So they were like, so we went through all these superhero names and we picked Nanogirl and it stuck. And so now that's the name of our business, which is Nanogirl, helping every kid figure out what their superhero name is and how they can engineer their own superpowers.
Oh, that's so cute. That's actually so cool. I guess that must have changed so much throughout COVID as well. Like your whole business must have changed and the outreach you do. Can you tell us a bit about how that did change?
Yeah, so I feel like Olaf and I are buddies. I mean, we obviously know each other, but I went from engineering to theatre, whereas he came from theatre to engineering. And so we've been working really hard building live engineering shows. And we've been doing so well that actually we hit the global scene. And so in May this year, we were supposed to go on tour for our global engineering tour with our Nanogirl show. We were doing a month in Australia, 6 weeks in Saudi Arabia, and then 2 months in the UK, including a full booking at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And we're going to come back to New Zealand in October, having toured this amazing show. And then COVID hit, so everybody cancelled and we lost all of our business in pretty much a day, which was quite challenging. And we realized that live events were not going to happen for quite a while, but the need was going to be greater. So we realized lockdown was coming in. We spoke to teachers about how they were going to teach science and technology remotely, and they just said, we're just not going to do it. They said, we're going to skip STEM because it's too hard to teach over Zoom. We don't know how to do it. We'll just wait till the kids come back, whenever that is, and then we'll try and catch up then. And we all know that the second you lose STEM, you lose confidence and you may never go back to it. And so we decided that we were going to pivot our business. Luckily, as an engineer, I know how to code. And so we coded through the night. We built ourselves a TV studio in our office. And then we decided to camp here. So I camped here with my husband over the whole of lockdown. And we made content for young kids called Nanogirl Labs. I'm going to show you what we built in a second. And then the Ministry of Education contacted us and said, can we make TV shows to teach science for the home learning channel? So we did that. It's actually the most watched show on the home learning channel, and they've just commissioned us to do another 6 episodes teaching high school students. So this is year 7 to year 9. And what's lovely is we teach the science concepts, and we do an experiment that's lockdown friendly, and then we dial in an actual researcher who talks about their field, so that students can see their high school subject that may be a little bit dry, and then meet a laser engineer who is blowing things apart using light. You know, meet a marine biologist who's listening to the sounds at the bottom of the oceans with a hydrophone. So it's been quite fun to bring that to life. I want to show you. So we wanted to teach kids how to use stuff around their house in lockdown, and we have 50 superpowers that you can build. And so EJ, this one's for you as a biomed person. So this is a cardboard hand.
Oh.
And then we've put some strings on there, and we're teaching kids about tendons, and you can put your hand in it and then attach the strings to your artificial tendons. And then you can pick things up with your giant hand.
Oh my God.
I mean, this is like not even like 20 cents worth of material. So that's one. The other one we built, I mean, we've built 50 of these. This is what I've been spending my lockdown doing, is using my engine skills to build cooking. This is a tissue box and a toilet roll and a little flap of a plastic milk container. And we've built a paper straw on the back, and you can make this roll around on the ground, and it's a chatterbox. And so it's a basic machine. So
Verify your parents.
you roll it around, it chatters. Like we built, if you like the pretty things, we've taught about center of gravity. And this is basically a butterfly.
Oh, wow.
2 skewers, it's 2 wooden skewers and paper clips. And we teach kids how to move the center of gravity on a piece of paper so that, you know, you can balance things in places that you wouldn't expect them to balance. And then you can decorate them, you can wear it on your wrist. So we've been sort of teaching kids all sorts of engineering skills. This is a balloon on a toilet roll holder, and inside we took some leftover tin foil. And so when you want to celebrate your day, this is your celebration confetti cannon. And so you can...
That's so cool.
There you go. We're trying to bring engineering to life for everybody. And yeah, we've been doing that. And what's been really special in lockdown is we've made every experiment for kids come with a parent cheat sheet, because we want to make sure parents feel confident around helping their kids learn at home too. So that's what we've been busy with.
So
Yeah,
cool.
I wish my mid-sci lectures would make a giant hand out of cardboard instead of like reading through my giant textbook. And yeah, honestly, if you guys probably might not know, but Michelle is like way more up to times with like social media than I am. Like, you have a TikTok right now. Do you want to shamelessly plug?
2.
I have 2. I have the one as me, and then I have the one as Nanogirl. And I have to admit, so here's where diversity comes. So we have a great team at Nanogirl Labs. We're amazing. And one of the people we did hire in lockdown is a 16-year-old TikTok expert who trained me in TikTok. He's like, right, here are all the songs. Here's what you need to do. And so our Nanogirl Labs channel is headed up. The manager of that channel is a 16-year-old
Wow.
student.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't gone over to the dark side yet. I have not downloaded TikTok because I'm worried about my grades.
It is a hole. You can go down really far and never come back out. But it's been a great way to communicate science and engineering to a younger generation, and it's been fun for me to keep upskilling and learning new things.
Yeah, like how do you keep so up to date and proactive, especially when times are changing so quickly?
I think it's about a flexibility of your mindset. I think it's an understanding that the world is always going to move, and if you don't keep doing little increments of catching up all the time, they're going to seem like really big steps. So for me, when TikTok came about, I was like, okay, I just don't get this. I'm too old for this. I need to hang out with people who do get it and hire them to be leaders in their field. It's not often you would hire a 16-year-old to lead a whole department, but he leads the TikTok department. And in his department, he's got people who are twice his age helping him find the content, and then he turns the content into something beautiful for TikTok. So I think it's making sure you have the right people in place for the job. And sometimes that doesn't mean experience in life. Sometimes that means experience in what you need.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's actually so cool. Like, I feel like not a lot of people would actually hire a 16-year-old, you know, like people don't really take it seriously, especially with TikTok. So that's actually super cool. And it's cool that like jobs like that are also evolving now, you know, as social media gets more and more intertwined in our lives.
Let's talk about jobs, right? So obviously studying is really, really important, but you'll find, and Sueyeon will probably say that actually once you're working, nobody cares about your transcript as much as they care about your skills. And so your grades are important, obviously. First year grades in engineering are really important to get your specialization, right? They're going to give you the advantage. But the skill set and what you've done practically, or what skills you can show, are also really important. So to me, I looked for a TikTok engineer, and I went to somebody who could show me the skills that they understood TikTok. And it doesn't matter how old you are or what your background is for that.
So what I'm hearing is I just need to download TikTok.
Well, if you want to be a TikTok engineer, maybe your rest of your life, but having hands-on skills, that's why doing your industrial experience is so important. That's why your 800 hours is so important. And being able in those places and doing graduate programs, because that's where you really get an idea of all the different skill sets that you have and sort of what you are good at and where you would like to fit in an organization or in academia, depending on what you want to do.
Yeah, just a bit unrelated. But I thought I might ask you this because I thought you would have a good perspective. But I feel like as times are changing, obviously the engineering field is changing a lot, and we're seeing more and more women entering the field, which I think is really amazing. One thing I have noticed a little bit is that there is a bit of a teeny bit of like a stigma where people are like, oh, you only got that job or that position because companies or are trying to meet a target. And I just was wondering what your thoughts kind of was on about this, and if you had any advice for people who are kind of experiencing that. Yeah,
tell them to stop it. You're the best person for the job. That is it. So, one of the challenges of quotas is that it can be perceived as that, but let those people perceive it, because you know you're good at your job and you know that you're there because you're good at your job. And companies don't hire you because of your gender. They don't hire you because of targets. They know that to succeed, they need the best person for the role. And typically those opinions come from people who would expect, if somebody has left, perhaps if let's say Bob left, it's really easy to find another Bob to go in and do what Bob did because you understood what that role was. But diversity of thought sometimes is about bringing in somebody who's different to give a different perspective. And that's really important. So for some people, they talk about that because they don't like change. And so it doesn't matter, just ignore them, because you know that you're the best person for that job and you're going to be bringing diverse thought with you. And that's what organizations need.
Wow. Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah.
Tell them Michelle said stuff it. That's it. That's
Yeah.
If anyone says it's just that Nanogirl said stuff it.
That's so cool.
But look, people are always going to criticize. I don't know why, but people always want us. It might not be about gender. It might be something else. And it's about knowing what your values are and knowing what your skills are and building your own confidence enough to know why you are amazing at what you do and what skills you're bringing to the role.
Wow. Oh, awesome. Oh, thanks for that, Michelle. Well, like, what's next for you? Are you going to make a third TikTok account, or how can people keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, so it's been pretty fun to live in this digital world and totally pivot a company. And we used to do live events, and what we've learned is actually digital experience, if done right, can be almost as impactful as a real life experience. And so we're going to be building some unique digital platforms to help get to those kids. And also, one of the things we did is, we know that not every child in the world or in New Zealand has digital or access to digital. So we always offer all of our products as a buy one, give one. But instead of offering give one digitals to those who didn't, we partnered this year with Eat My Lunch, and we made instructions for kids who got free lunches, where they were printouts, because they obviously didn't have internet at home, where they used their food packaging to make science experiments and engineering experiments. And so we're going to be partnering with more charities and organizations around the world now to build solutions like that for those who are not maybe tech savvy or don't have access, to still be able to do some of the things that we do. So yeah, we're going to be looking at how do we make sure that we really have equity of access for all.
Wow, that's actually so cool. Oh my God, thank you so much for sharing that with us, and to Olaf and Sueyeon as well. Thank you guys for coming and speaking with us. Before we move on to the competition and all that kind of thing, it'd be awesome to get the three of you to do a Q&A panel, hopefully, with all of us. I know we have some questions in the Q&A box. If anyone wants to ask any more questions, go down the bottom and type it into the Q&A box and we can ask for you. But yeah, one question I guess I love asking to start it off is, do you have any tips for how students and younger people in engineering can develop their own meaningful projects? Because I think the three of you are quite passionate about what you do. How can they actually do something that means something to them and also makes a contribution?
Do you want me to start with that one, or yeah?
Please.
I mean, to me, I mean, particularly, I mean, the one, I guess, I don't want to say the one good thing with this COVID pandemic, but, you know, the one thing that it has brought out is, you know, this is a problem that cannot be solved by one company. It's got to be solved by people all around the world working together. So one of the good things it's brought about is actually people, I mean, I'm collaborating with people all over the world on various PPE projects. So, you know, this is a good way of getting into medical products. And as I said, you know, I'd never done anything like this before. So using this as, I guess, a bit of an opportunity to network with the right people is really, really, I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'll go. I mean, part of it is figuring out what you love and what your passion is. So part of that is just trying some things that maybe you haven't thought about was a career for you, but trying things that you, all different types of things mean that you really do get to figure out what you love and maybe what you don't like. And then with Olaf, with 3D printing, I mean, the world is changing so quickly that now you can have a concept and prototype it and build it with a 3D printer, or build it out of cardboard, or, you know, actually make something and bounce that idea off people. So I think it's a really exciting time to follow your passions and try and turn it into something real.
And maybe just to add to that, maybe don't discount cardboard. Cardboard is a fantastic prototyping material. I mean, seriously, you know, before you print, do it in cardboard first, and just before passing. I mean, we had about 128 people on board. If any of you guys need stuff 3D printed, email me the files and we'll print it for you guys. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, to follow on for me, I feel like I resonate with what Michelle said, like, especially because we've just been in lockdown and my mind has been like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? It's been really good because I've actually started my personal project, which I've always had on my mind for like the longest time. You know, there's the whole, oh, I should make an app, you know, the classic, yeah. We should start a band, but I should make an app for software engineers. So yeah, it's been really good to start something and have the time to really like sit down and be like, oh, what am I passionate about? What do I really want to do personally? So that's cool. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, awesome. I guess I'll hit you with this question, Sueyeon. This is one in the Q&A box by anonymous attendee. I would credit you, but shout out in the chat if this was you. They said, thank you all for the time, for taking the time to do this for us. What is the coolest thing about studying engineering at the University of Auckland?
Ooh, I guess you guys could help me with this answer as well.
Yeah, all three of you.
Two previous viewer lecturers just watching.
Oh God. Honestly, I think the coolest thing about studying at University of Auckland engineering is well, for software engineering specifically, is that we had a lot of opportunities to do a lot of project-based papers. And I think that was so helpful and so much fun because I got to create relationships with people in my class. We also learned how to use tools that we use on a regular basis, just like classic GitHub, and learn how to interact with people, and, you know, just like even simple, just like strengthening your soft skills as well, which is really important, which they don't really mention a lot in university, but it's so important when you start going out there in the field. So for me, project work was definitely great. And it's also just like, so cool being able to build something with like a team of your classmates, and it's just, you know, it's just made by you guys, and it's just it's really cool to see like the outcome and stuff. So that's my favorite.
Yeah, we have some of the projects as well, so I know what you mean. Like, it's quite satisfying.
Yeah,
having something that you've actually made from like the beginning to like the end.
I think that's also what, you know, Michelle was talking about earlier about what can you do. I think the projects really show what you can do, your applied skills, and that's what companies are looking for. If you can say, in my project I did this, that is worth $1 million.
We've got a chat. A question for Olaf. What is your favorite thing you've 3D printed, and does 3D printing offer advantages in terms of sustainability?
Oh, that's two different ones. I think my favorite stuff, I mean, I love the guitars because I used to play a lot of music, but in terms of sustainability, I think the good thing with 3D printing is it only uses the material you need for the part. And where we've had the most fun is in what we call lightweighting, so making things lighter. And I've got an example of that here. It's a really weird engineering part. It's a manifold. It's a hydraulic manifold, normally printed in stainless steel. So normally this would be a block of steel that would weigh 16 kilos. This is now 1.4 kilos, so 95% weight saving. Now think about that. If that goes on an airplane, or if you got to ship it around the world, you've now got a huge sustainability advantage, less fuel costs, less material costs, all of those sorts of things. So that's probably where, to me, it's really exciting from a sustainability point of view.
Yeah, sure. Did you have anything to add, Michelle? Or I've got another question here for you, I think specifically from Eventbrite.
I'll tell you what I have a 3D printer and I love 3D printing. And my favorite thing that I 3D printed is a Tyrannosaurus Rex shower head. So it's got the shower device and then it's got these big teeth, and then I modified it so the teeth were bigger, and then it massages your head while you're showering.
No way. Oh, God. That's so cool. You have to produce those and set them on the market, because I definitely want one now.
Well, the great thing about 3D printing is there's free sort of base patterns that you can download out there, and then I took that and then I modified it to sort of do what I wanted to do, which was scratch my head.
Wow. Oh my God, Olaf, you and all your staff are going to get just 100 orders for those now. Oh wow. Michelle, this one actually came through the Eventbrite when you sign up. This one was for you, I think. Can nanotechnology be used for tracking each and every human, like in fiction movies, for contact tracing during pandemics?
Well, technically yes, but ethically probably we won't do that. So,
good answer. That's a very good answer.
So look, nanotech can do a lot of things, and nano is just a size scale. So you could easily do a metal sort of tattoo that had a bit of a conductive pattern that you could put a barcode on, for example. We have ethics around that, and we wouldn't start tagging people. I mean, there's some conversation around there's some conspiracy theories around what Bill Gates is doing right now, and there's been a bit of a conspiracy theory around him creating basically a copper nanoparticle that you could tattoo on, and then you could tell if you've been vaccinated or not against COVID. That's not happening, and although things are theoretically possible, it doesn't mean that we do those sorts of things.
I just want to quickly mention that I did mention that before. We've got like a really wide range of people in the audience. So like in terms of like these question and answers, like if you are like a uni student and you can answer a question that maybe a high school student has put up, like feel free. Or if you're an industry graduate and you can answer a question, like feel free to like answer them on the Q&A chat as well. Like it's all about just kind of building this kind of network. So
for sure. Yeah.
Looking at another question that came through for Eventbrite that I kind of liked is, do you think engineering could have prevented COVID, and if so, how? And then also, and how can we be better prepared for like any future pandemics?
Should I start us off?
Could it have prevented it before you knew about it? Probably not, but I think we're learning a lot from it for the next pandemic, so we can react a hell of a lot quicker than we did this time. I mean, there's still countries now that are only reacting now, even though it's been going for 2 months. So I think, engineering will help resolve the next one, but I think we started a little bit late on this one. Potentially, and we did really well in New Zealand, but a lot of the rest of the world didn't do so well. So, yeah.
I think part of the challenge too is, so I'm a communicator, and so trying to explain quite scientific terms and concepts. I'm a nanotechnologist. This is my thing. I love tiny viruses, but I realize that most people aren't experts in the invisible. And so it's taken a long time even just to help educate the public around what viruses are, how they transmit. So I think around, what engineers can do is talk about their jobs, help people with scientific literacy and engineering literacy to make it more normal in conversation. And from an invention point of view, I think a couple of things. So we know mathematical modeling, and engineers are great modelers, has been some of the saving graces of how we've decided to lock down certain areas. So, those who love modeling, that's great. Also, from a surfaces point of view, we know that there are different surfaces that viruses like to survive on and don't like to survive on. And so as materials engineers, there's a lot of work that can be done around surfaces that perhaps will help to dehydrate the virus quicker, which means that it survives on there for less time, especially for medical surfaces and for masks and stuff. So I think there's a lot of things that we can build now in time for what may be another pandemic, because viruses we know are going to be around for a long time.
unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah.
So a question that I've seen pop up in the Q&A and on Eventbrite is like, how did you guys get into engineering? Like, what inspired you, and how can students also be more proactive in like fighting COVID in our own way? I know that Sueyeon, you had a lot of experience in like hackathons. So is that kind of how you got into engineering?
Actually not really. It's really funny. How did I get into engineering? I kind of didn't even know what developing was, or software development was, when I was in high school, because it wasn't something that I even knew was a career option. I didn't even know what coding was. And I think at the time when I was in high school, like, it wasn't just something that was available to our high school, or like I just didn't even know about it. And the reason that I actually got into software engineering was because my high school calculus teacher, she was like my favorite. and she told me that she did engineering. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna be an engineer. So I like hopped along, and that was like my only decision to become an engineer. But the reason why I decided to stay in software engineering is because I think in UOA, when you do engineering, you kind of go and do a bit of each specialization in your first year. I'm sure you guys have experienced that. And when it came around to the software engineering, I just immediately fell in love, because I was like, wow, like, I've never experienced anything like this. Just like being able to build things up with your own, hands, and your own coding experience was really cool. So yeah, no, it wasn't hackathons or anything like that for me. It was just pure luck that I really enjoyed my calculus high school teacher, and I just really enjoyed uni. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess like speaking on that, there's another question in the Q&A that says, is engineering really hard to study? I'm not sure I'm good enough at maths. And I think everyone kind of has this idea that, people that do engineering kind of want to do that for their whole lives, and they kind of get to uni and they've trained their whole lives to be good at maths. But a lot of engineering isn't actually maths. Like there's a lot of maths in it. Don't think there's not, but it's not, super complex math. I don't think I've actually done much math at all this year in a mechatronics degree. It's more about the other skills that you learn as well, and there's like 8 or 9 different specializations, and I think maybe one of them is probably based solely around maths. So if you don't like maths, don't take that one, but there's so many different ones that you can do. You don't have to be training your whole time for this. Like, I only decided I want to do it in year 13, and I'm sure you guys might be like that as well. So yeah. I guess,
and I think a lot of it comes back also to how it's taught. I think the context in which it's taught. I think Michelle said earlier, I think high school is pretty dry, a lot of the topics. When you don't understand what it's used for, you say, well, why do I care? Because once you know what it's used for in the practical applications, So I actually enjoyed maths in high school, but that's only because I had a really, really good teacher who actually explained it well in the context that we could understand. So yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, teachers really kind of influence how you perceive a subject. But I think, yeah, like as Olaf said, like once you actually kind of figure out what they're using the stuff for, it becomes a lot cooler. Like all of the bio stuff that I learned, like it seems a bit tedious, but when the lecturers actually like explain like what they use this information for to develop like new like technology or new procedures or whatever to help fix like actual real problems, it just becomes a lot more interesting. So definitely don't be too disheartened if you don't think you're like too good at math.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess one question to kind of close this off here, coming out of lockdown, like all 3 of you, how do you think people can hit the ground running, and like what is important more than now than ever for engineers and students alike, coming into this new world where there's a lot of different challenges to what there were a few months ago? Olaf, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, the best way to my mind to hit the ground running is pick a problem and solve it. It doesn't matter what the problem is, whether it's medical, whether it's something to do with your bicycle, your scooter, it doesn't really matter, but pick any problem and figure out a way to solve it, because engineering is about problem solving. It doesn't matter if it's software, electronics, mechanical, it's always problem solving. So, pick anything and just do it.
That's cool.
I'll add to Olaf. So pick a problem, solve it, and then find a whole bunch of buddies who are not like you to help you solve it. Because not one person can ever solve one problem.
Yep.
Solutions are always from people who are usually very different to you, and you probably wouldn't go out with to the pub or out with a party. They're usually the opposite people that you would hang out with normally. Find those people, because actually that diversity of thought is really important.
Yeah, I think I'm basically the same as Olaf and Michelle. I think being proactive is definitely a skill that is so important in the workforce, and it's like constantly, you know, it's constantly being able to be improved, and something that I guess I haven't really been taught in university. So just like going out there and being like, you know, here's a problem, what should I do about it? Oh, I can just make something to solve it. You know, it's really important to just proactively go out there and do what, you know, you can.
Yeah, because I reckon if a lot of us think about it as well, like you think about solving problems, I feel like most of us would like solving problems a lot more than we like math, you know, and it's not just about the math, it's very much about solving the problems. So that's really cool that you guys all agree on that as well. Yeah, I think that might be all the time we have for questions, unless you had one more that you want to do, EJ. Or we can
No, I don't.
No?
But I think just reading the chats and the questions, everyone's just kind of been like, yeah, really amazed by you guys and the answers that you've given. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules, I'm sure, on your Monday night to come and talk about and give a bit more insight onto engineering and what you do and how we can all kind of play a little role in, you know, this crazy time.